Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first behind the scenes video about Ace. Yeah, this is strange. I'm not used to this yet, so give me a minute. Essentially, I'm going to take this time to tell you about the video and why I chose this specific part. So, I knew for Ace that I want to take the series farther than I ever have before. So if you go back and you watch the first episode of Ace and you watch it chronologically from episode 1 all the way to episode 8 as to me recording this audio, if you watch it all the way, you will notice that the style changed, but every time the style changed, I have tried to improve the visuals and the mechanics and everything. I have tried to improve it all. As a result of this, I came to the conclusion, during New Year's of 2023, that there are two types of episodes for Ace. There's specific aircraft breakdowns, which was the Ghost of Kiev and the Red Baron episode from a few years back, and there's story episodes, like The Legend of Y-29 and this one, the Brown-Stigler incident. The breakdown episodes are generally going to be shorter than the story. And based off of my new classification, most of the Ace series is a breakdown. And I would love to have a roughly equal mix of both styles. And this is my first step towards that goal. So this video that on the Stigler Brown incident, I put it together in 2 weeks, and I spent a week on the script and recording the audio, and then I spent a week editing it all together. I got advice from my good friends Mr. Shrigus and to Noah on specific edits. You'll notice that when the B-17 is falling down, the smoke trail kind of fades in, and that fade, I never could get that to work quite right, but Noah showed me exactly which aspect I needed to add it onto that element to get that to crossfade in properly, and that improved the scene tenfold. It really did. And there was one moment in the video where the BF-109 makes a reappearance. Yeah, the funny thing about World War II is the same aircraft are going to show up for multiple episodes. So there will eventually be a point where when I go to do the breakdowns, I can just point to previous episodes that I've made. Like, for this one, I pointed to episode 8 with the Y-29 because I broke down the BF-109 in that episode. Literally, my original plan was to just copy-paste that part of the script into this one. But Shrigus suggested, hey, why don't you just reference that instead? And I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's such a good idea. And it gives me an excuse to use those stupid little iCards. I haven't used them in years because I haven't really had a reason to. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, hey, I can use this where I reference that to get people to go to my most popular video on the channel. Even though the likelihood of people that watch this have probably already watched episode 8, and people that have already watched episode 8 probably watched episode... let's be real here. Up until this year, most of the audience for this series is people that are already familiar with my content and the channel in general. Ace, from episode 7 to now, has gotten so many new viewers that I genuinely did not anticipate this at all. And I'm still trying to figure out if it was just a fluke of the new year. Genuinely. But overall, this story, the story of Franz Stigler and Charles Brown, and how they worked together, in a sense, to get across the Atlantic Wall back to England is one of the rare stories that shows that at the end of the day, soldiers are still people. They're still human. Like ignoring the fact that the government of Germany at the time was one of the most repressive and horrible governments in the world. Probably the worst one. At the time, Stigler had no reason, no motivation to save Brown and his crew. He had he gained nothing from it. But he through a sense of honor, because he was always taught in the Africa Corps when he was flying for there, his commanders taught him, well, not taught, basically threatened. He's like, if I see you if I hear that you shot down a parachuting man, I will shoot you myself. Something along those lines. Like, it was a serious threat. So he took that and then applied it to this stricken B-17 that's barely clinging on. Like, the damage that plane could ever... The B-17 has a reputation of taking an absolute crap ton of damage and surviving. This is that to the extreme. And it's a miracle only one of the crew members died that day. It really is a miracle. It's like... Because I assure you, any other German pilot, especially someone on their way to getting a reward, would have shot that bomber down. Without question. It has to be like the hand of God that Brown and his crew ended up encountering Stigler, and Stigler had that honor system built into him. Genuinely, they would not have lived otherwise. It's just easy to forget that soldiers are people too, and like I can see why the military covered up the incident once Brown landed back and told the story to his officers. I can understand why they scrubbed the mission off the books, so they covered it up. No one could ever know. I get that. You can't have the enemy you've demonized in your propaganda all of a sudden doing something very humanitarian for the enemy. That humanizes them, and once you humanize the enemy, then the will to fight them kind of goes away a little bit. The Germans had to be demons. I don't know. It's a surprising story, and I hate that it took Sabaton to tell me it existed. Now, I've known about the story for a few years now, but that's literally only because I was introduced to Sabaton a few years ago. That's it. If I had never been introduced to Sabaton, I never would have known about this story. And I hate that it took that for me to learn about it. But now that I do know about it, I have an opportunity to tell the story of these two pilots and keep their legacy alive. And so that's the point of this, is not to be completely altruistic here, but this episode is essentially the theme of this episode is the fact that we're all people. And soldiers on other sides of battle can show human grace to each other. Yeah, that's basically it. I have no idea what the next episode of Ace is going to be, but I'll probably do one of these again. Yeah. Hopefully I'll get better at these. I don't want to script these because, like, I feel like if I script them, then I'm going to struggle with it even more, so I'm just kind of bleh onto the microphone. All right. See you all in the next one. Bye.